Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me at this year's BIM Coordinators Summit. My name is Erin Khan, and I will be presenting today on this topic titled Realizing the Hype AR/MR Best Practices in Construction Workflows. The content in this presentation is courtesy of Placer Solutions and summarizes findings from an in-depth research effort I've conducted in collaboration with Placer. Let's get started. Before diving into the details, here's a little bit more about me. So, my name is Erin, and I first got into the dynamic world of AEC as a civil engineering student at the University of Southern California. Fight on for any Trojans out there in the crowd. So, in my very first role, I was a project engineer intern renovating one of the buildings on the USC campus, which was a super cool experience. But it was also truly eye-opening. So I was learning the latest and greatest at school, but it was a very different story out on the real job site, especially when it came to technology. So from day one, I was very, very passionate about bringing more efficient and collaborative ways of working to construction, especially to field teams, and promoted using solutions like digital drawing sets with Bluebeam Review and other technologies to have much better outcomes on projects. So, fast forward about a decade or so, and my last corporate experience was at Suffolk Construction. Amazing team. They're doing a lot of really groundbreaking things there, specifically in Contech. So, as the National Director of Construction Solutions, focusing specifically on technology and innovation for operations. But there was more that I felt I wanted to do. So as of January this year, decided to start my own construction technology consulting firm, Erin Khan Consulting, or EKC for short, in order to impact the industry beyond just one company. So today, I work with both contractors and technology startups in order to foster tech adoption across the board in the industry and create more effective and innovative tools tailored specifically for builders. So if you're interested in connecting or just want to chat about Contech, feel free to scan the QR code somewhere here and reach me on LinkedIn. So, moving on to today's topic, I first want to address why augmented and mixed reality was selected as the initial research area, and especially why it's worth talking about. So, in light of the growth and adoption of 3D modeling tools, BIM, data integrations, and all of these amazing things that are in the industry, the natural question that comes up is how do we bring, all of these amazing capabilities from what's traditionally in like the back office function out into the field where construction activities are actually physically taking place. It's where the real collaboration happens and construction happens. So how do we get the information and data from point A to point B? So augmented and mixed reality technologies have a very unique ability to translate these complex virtual design and coordination concepts and assets into a universal human experience and are essentially primed perfectly to bring 3D data and more from the office into the field. So, moreover, with constant advancements that we see in hardware capabilities as well over time, we're now close to a tipping point where ease of use and other barriers to entry, traditionally with AR and MR, are much reduced. So, through the research exercise, speaking with SMEs at GCs who are already successfully using AR MR in the field, as well as speaking with expert tech providers on the market, the general consensus is that now is the time is perfectly ripe to adopt and accelerate the AEC industry, specifically with AR and MR capabilities. So, starting with an overview, for many of the SMEs interviewed through the research process with Placer, distinguishing between augmented reality and distinguishing between mixed reality, it's not really a worthwhile exercise. The definitions of what AR versus MR perhaps have been interchanged quite a bit and in a gray area over the years. But for the purposes of just speaking about it, communicating about it, and presenting on this topic today, I'll be pulling some generalized definitions, breaking it down to how field users are using it today. So for AR, that largely means using a tablet or a mobile device to do a digital overlay on a real world environment. So that's depicted on the image on the left with the mobile phone showing the 3D model overlaid. And then with mixed reality depicted on the right image, it's taken to be more of an immersive headset experience where the user can see the overlay on a real world environment in it, like again, in that immersive headset in a 1-to-1 ratio. So you can see the two workers on the right. They're wearing what is, I believe, a Trimble XR10. They're immersed in the model and can check what the digital model is saying compared to what's there in real life. So now with some of the definitions out of the way, we can see on this timeline that current AR MR tools have been a very long time in the making. So, starting in the 1960s with early military applications, so you'll see that there in the Super Cockpit program, which involved virtual reality, it would actually take about 50 more years or so of development and applications of this tech in other industries before construction would start to connect the dots between 3D models and BIM that is already out on the scene to bringing it into the field and using the AR MR capabilities. So fast forwarding a little bit here. So notably, you'll see that in 2017, we've highlighted the launch of Visual Live, an augmented reality solution developed for construction that really was a game changer when it came out with delivering the augmented reality experience in a much more contractor and I would say VDC focused way and friendly way. So from here on out, we're seeing constant growth in the context startup market. It's essentially led us to where we have a super bloom of exciting solutions with high impact functions for AEC specifically. So that's where we see that 2021 and obviously beyond with some of the solutions that we have today. So despite being in a really good spot today, we have an explosion of context startups in the space and improved digital preparedness from contractors. There are still quite a number of significant challenges that stop or even completely really slow down the adoption and usage of augmented and mixed reality solutions. So in the interest of time, I've pulled 3 out of 9 major challenges that are identified in the report. But later on, I'll get to additional resources that will be shared if you'd like more details. So first off, starting with construction organizations, many GCs still struggle to have strong VDC knowledge and skills in-house, which results in poor BIM-related processes and extra large learning curve to overcome this. So to address this, builders should definitely invest in VDC roles to build these essential skills into their organization and start to build that muscle so they can flex with these new technologies. So leading to the next point, when it comes to the technology itself, many builders are wary or unwilling to purchase AR MR solutions because there's that big learning gap. But a good first step to addressing this is leveraging many of the low or no cost options on the market. So I'll get to this later on with a slide that will show some of these options in a little bit more detail. And then finally here, AR MR is a super collaborative technology by nature, and it creates a natural complexity because we have so many parties that are involved with preparing the model, distributing it, actually seeing it, giving feedback on it. So since these users vary from all the way from like the project owner, architect, engineer, to actual building occupants, the surrounding communities that want to see what the building will be like, and more, rapid deployment and scaling is often difficult to achieve with today's tools. So I'll get to some of the culture aspects that can help address this. So, speaking of culture and how we can address some of the challenges, I've listed here a snippet of some of the featured case studies from builders Hensel Phelps, BN Builders, and Haskell as inspiration for what has already been achieved with the technology in construction. So, these are all examples that have already been done today with the technology. So, the first example of culture at Hensel Phelps, which I recommend always starting with innovation culture first, is that having a strong VDC team that normalizes sophisticated technology applications makes it much, much easier across the board to implement with multiple stakeholders. So in this image, you'll see little paper airplanes or what looks like paper airplanes. So this was a complex artwork installation at an airport renovation. And this specific scope of work with the art was coordinated in part with AR and MR capabilities. So, since this team had already normalized really good VDC workflows, they had a process down, they made it just another regular thing throughout the day to bring out AR, MR capabilities and digital coordination in the field. So it was pretty natural to say to the artist, who's a non-technical stakeholder here, hey, put on this headset, see what your planned arts installation is going to be like, and understand immediately how to avoid clashes with existing building conditions, code requirements, other installation requirements, etc. So, moving on from that culture piece, the next best practice is from an example with BN Builders, where AR MR tools were used to elegantly communicate what was a very complex and difficult to coordinate pipe grid installation. So, by applying AR MR as a communication medium specifically, the field team was able to efficiently take on extremely complicated scopes of work and basically really streamline installation. So, without the tool, it would have been very, very difficult for installers in the field to understand what exactly is going in, where it needs to go, and at what specific complex installation needs to happen there. So by using the communication tool, simplified the whole process. So finally, AR/MR, it is an excellent way to support ESG, environmental, social, and governance initiatives for builders, which I know a lot of organizations are starting to focus on, which is great. So Haskell in this example, they used remote inspection capabilities with AR/MR technology to reduce travel requirements, save approximately like $20,000 for specific inspection needs, and foster a more inclusive job site. So things to think about, there's an added plus with technology, which is that inclusion aspect. So, moving on to the tech provider end of things, I've picked out 3 top of mind recommendations from the Placer research report here. So, very first up, do not overhype what the technology is capable of. So, don't oversell it. For instance, when the Microsoft HoloLens 1 was first launched, from the conversations we had, there was a lot of excitement about the potential of this technology, but in reality, it just fell flat, which eventually led to loss of trust, early adopters turning into tech pessimists, which we don't want in construction. We want early adopters to be excited. So keeping things realistic will go a long, long way with builders and with building long-term relationships and creating those tech believers and tech influencers that we need out in the field. So next up is to ensure a good FTUE, which is first time user experience. So the very worst defense that a tech provider can do to a construction team is to waste their very precious time out in the field. So that first experience, it really has to be a knockout. So it's got to be easy to accomplish the workflow with the tech. So think getting started in 3 taps, clicks, or less. provide immediate value. So there has to be a reason why you're using the tech. It's got to solve something or improve something, and leave the user with a fantastic feeling and being excited to use it again. And then last but not least, I do see many tech providers doing this well actually, but just want to underscore is having some sort of a low or no cost option to try this solution and just learn about the technology. So encouraging exploration and experimentation, and giving an opportunity to have that phase before diving fully into a solution. So, on that note, here is a very small list of current AR MR tools on the market. So, you'll see that the use cases that are listed are quite extensive with each of these, and value is provided throughout the whole value chain. So, from the conceptual design phase of the project all the way through construction, all the way through facility maintenance and management. So, there's a lot that AR/MR can impact. So additionally, these solutions and many more have a freemium offering, so to speak, and all it takes, quite honestly, is just an email to get started. So I would definitely encourage anybody who's just curious to check out some of those solutions. So again, this is a very short list. There are probably tens of hundreds out there. So if you don't quite find something that helps you out in this, again, short list, chances are what you're looking for does exist in another solution that's out there on the market. So, wrapping up a little bit today, today's material is again a summary of findings from this report that's shown here, courtesy of Placer Solutions. So, to access the full details and more, you can scan the QR code here, and definitely don't forget the discount code that's on the screen, Beyond the Hype -AR. So, I'll pause here for just a few more seconds since there is that QR code. And moving on. So, in addition to the report, of course, I am always happy to chat about Contech in general, whether it be specifically about AR/MR or any other solution type, and support those who are interested in improving construction workflows. So my mission at EKC it truly is to bring together the worlds of the contractor and the technology provider and build a future where we're not just surviving and hanging on, but where we're actually thriving and creating amazing things in the built world together. So this QR code will take you to my Calendly page to set up a meeting if you want to exchange thoughts. And then what I would want to leave the group here today with, the biggest takeaway is really to just build relationships. So if you are a builder, build a relationship with a tech provider. If you're a tech provider, reach out to builders, not just to showcase your product, but also to get insights and lessons learned. So builders can provide really great insight into what makes a solution successful. And then tech providers as well can provide that education and close that gap of learning technical competencies and accelerate that within construction organizations. So it really comes down to, again, innovation culture, communication, and community between the groups. So this concludes the end of this presentation, and I'd like to thank the organizers of the BIM Coordinators Summit so much for hosting this event and having the opportunity to share some of this information with you all, as well as Autodesk for sponsoring this stage. And of course, you, the audience, for giving me your time and attention today. So thank you. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. And I very much look forward to continuing to support tech adoption in the industry. Thank you.